The morning began like every other for Daniel Hale, but he didn't know that by sunset, his entire life would stand on the trembling edge between despair and hope. It started in the quiet gray-blue haze before dawn, when the world still looked half asleep and the cold air stung his lungs. His old delivery van sputtered awake like it needed encouragement just to keep going. Daniel gripped the wheel with hands calloused from a life that never quite paused, and on the passenger seat beside him sat a rusty red toolbox, its paint chipped, its hinges creaking, its surface covered with words he had carved into it during the darkest nights of his life. Those words would soon be seen by someone powerful, someone who could change everything, though Daniel had no idea. Before diving deeper into Daniel's journey, viewers watching are invited to like, comment, share, and subscribe if they believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of ordinary people who keep fighting no matter what life throws at them. Daniel wasn't always a delivery worker. Years ago, he had been an apprentice mechanic with dreams of opening a small workshop of his own. But life has a way of shifting the ground beneath a person's feet. When his wife passed away suddenly, leaving him as the sole parent to little 6-year-old Emma, everything changed. He tried to keep the dream alive at first, balancing late-night repairs with daytime parenting, but the bills piled up quicker than the customers came. One by one, he sold his tools, then his workshop space, then his own car. What remained were only the smallest tools he could fit into that rusty red box, and the words he had carved into it the night he realized he was losing everything except his daughter. "Keep going. Emma needs you." Every morning he placed that box beside him in the van, even though he wasn't using it anymore. It had become something like a reminder, something he needed to see to survive. The toolbox wasn't just metal and rust. It was the last piece of his old life he couldn't let go. Now, working for a small food delivery service that partnered with corporate offices, Daniel spent his days carrying lunch trays to professionals in suits who barely looked at him. He didn't complain. It paid the rent, barely, and allowed him to pick up Emma from school on good days, or from his neighbor Mrs. Hill's home on the tough ones when deliveries ran late. On the day everything changed, he was assigned a delivery to a towering glass building downtown, home to ArcLight Innovations, one of the most influential tech companies in the city. Daniel rarely received routes in that direction. It was too far, too high profile, but someone else had called in sick, so he was sent instead. He tried to shake off the exhaustion as he pushed the heavy van door open. The cold wind blew his jacket aside, revealing the old toolbox strapped with a bungee cord on the seat. He always took it with him, even though he never used it for deliveries. Emma once asked why, and he told her because it reminded him of who he still wanted to be. Daniel carried a stack of 12 neatly packed lunchboxes balanced on his left arm, while his right hand clutched the toolbox. The building's marble lobby felt like another world, bright, polished, humming with success. People in tailored suits walked past him as though he were invisible. He stepped into the elevator, listening to the soft mechanical sigh as it began rising toward the top floors. He shifted the toolbox under his arm, and for a moment, he thought of Emma, her tiny fingers tracing the carved words when she was younger, asking him what they really meant. When the elevator reached the executive floor, Daniel stepped out into a hallway lined with frosted glass and modern art. He moved carefully, making sure nothing tipped from the tray. As he approached the main conference room, he noticed a woman standing by the window. She wore a simple charcoal suit, elegant yet understated, and carried the calm confidence of someone who held authority without needing to announce it. She seemed deep in thought, reviewing a set of papers. Daniel didn't know who she was. To him, she was simply another employee waiting for lunch. But she was Miranda Blake, the CEO of ArcLight Innovations, a woman often described as brilliant, cold, and impossibly focused. She was known for turning a struggling startup into a multi-billion-dollar powerhouse. But Daniel didn't follow business news. His world revolved around bills, shifts, and Emma's school schedule. Miranda turned when she heard his footsteps. Her expression was polite but distant, the way executives often looked at delivery workers, acknowledging their presence without truly seeing them. Daniel set the lunchboxes carefully on the table and bent down to place the last two trays when his toolbox slipped from his arm and clattered onto the polished floor. The sound echoed through the room, sharp and metallic. The lid popped open slightly, revealing worn tools and a faded picture of Emma tucked inside. Miranda flinched at the noise, then watched silently as Daniel scrambled to gather the tools. He muttered an apology, his voice low, his movements quick but flustered. His hands shook slightly. He hated drawing attention to himself. But Miranda wasn't looking at the fallen tools. She was looking at the carving. She had noticed the words etched deep into the red metal, "Keep going, Emma needs you." For reasons Daniel didn't understand, Miranda's expression changed. The cold professionalism softened, replaced by something he didn't expect. Recognition, almost familiarity, like she was seeing not just a delivery worker, but a father fighting battles she understood. She walked closer, her heels clicking softly on the floor. Daniel kept his head down, embarrassed, unaware that those few carved words were stirring something inside a woman known for her unshakable composure. While Daniel hurried to pack the tools back into the box, Miranda remembered her own father, who had worked himself to exhaustion after her mother left. She remembered the nights he fixed broken appliances just to earn enough for her school books. On those nights he would whisper almost the same words, "Keep going, Miranda. You deserve the future I never had." She had locked away those memories long ago, but seeing the carving brought them all crashing back. Daniel stood up quickly, gripping the toolbox awkwardly, apologizing again. Miranda surprised him by asking if he was all right. Her tone wasn't stern. It was gentle, almost human in a way he didn't expect from a CEO. He nodded quietly and backed away, but she watched him leave with a weighted expression. Daniel stepped back into the elevator, trying to shake off the uncomfortable feeling of being noticed too closely. He didn't want pity. He needed work, stability, a chance to breathe, nothing more. But that carved message, exposed in that gleaming room, left him feeling strangely vulnerable. After finishing the rest of his route, he returned to his van and found a missed call from Emma's school. His heart tightened. He feared the worst. But when he called back, he learned she had a mild fever and needed to be picked up. He drove straight there, worrying about the medicine cost, the hours of work he might miss tomorrow, and how everything always felt like it was hanging by a thread. That night, as Emma slept curled against him on the couch with a warm cloth on her forehead, Daniel stared at the toolbox again. He remembered carving those words on the night he thought he would lose custody because he couldn't find stable work. He remembered promising himself he would never give up, no matter how hard things became. Yet in recent weeks, he felt those promises slipping away like sand through fingers that could no longer hold on. The next morning, his phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. He answered hesitantly, expecting another bill reminder or shift update. Instead, it was someone from ArcLight Innovations asking him to return to the building that afternoon. The request was polite but firm. Daniel wasn't given a reason, only that the CEO wanted to see him personally. His heart sank. He assumed he had done something wrong. Perhaps dropping the toolbox caused damage. Maybe he had breached some rule without realizing. He worried all morning as he made his deliveries, feeling the weight of uncertainty clawing at his ribs. Losing this job would be devastating. When he arrived at ArcLight again, he was escorted upstairs, but not to the conference room. They took him to a smaller private office overlooking the city. Miranda Blake stood there, hands folded in front of her, looking out the window with an unreadable expression. Daniel felt out of place, like a shadow against the brightness of her world. She turned and offered him a seat. He remained standing, nervous, clutching the toolbox again because he brought it everywhere. Miranda noticed immediately and glanced at the carving once more. Then she began speaking, not as a CEO, but as a daughter who remembered the sacrifices of a man who had raised her alone. She told Daniel that she understood struggle. She understood trying to build a life with nothing but grit and love for a child. She had seen his toolbox, and it reminded her of her father. She said his words moved her in a way she couldn't ignore. Daniel didn't understand. CEOs didn't call delivery drivers into private offices because of emotional carvings. Then she explained why she had asked him to come. ArcLight Innovations had been preparing to launch a new community initiative. something to support skilled workers who lacked opportunities or resources, but they lacked a real story, a real heart, someone whose journey could embody the purpose of that initiative. Miranda believed Daniel represented exactly that. She wanted to offer him a chance, not a handout, but a path to rebuild his dreams. She had already reviewed his background. She knew he had workshop experience, certifications, years of hands-on skill. She offered him a funded apprenticeship in their new mechanical development wing, a salary that would triple what he currently earned, and flexibility so he could care for Emma. Daniel stood frozen. For a moment, he thought it was some cruel misunderstanding. But Miranda continued, explaining gently, patiently, that kindness sometimes comes when least expected. She reminded him, with sincerity, that his carved message wasn't just a father's desperate note. It was the embodiment of resilience the world needed to see. For the first time in years, Daniel felt something inside him loosen, something tight, something tired. He felt tears burning but blinked them away. He accepted the offer, though his voice trembled as though afraid it would disappear if he spoke too loudly. Through the following months, Daniel's life transformed. He worked hard, trained harder, and flourished in ways he had nearly forgotten he was capable of. Emma's health improved with better care and better living conditions. She loved visiting her dad's new workspace, proud of him in ways words could hardly hold. And Miranda, though still a powerful figure in a world far from theirs, kept a quiet eye on his progress with warmth she rarely showed anyone. Before the story reaches its final moment, viewers are warmly invited. If this journey moved you, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps support more stories that remind us of the extraordinary strength in ordinary lives. 1 year later, during the public launch event for ArcLight's initiative, Daniel was asked to speak. He never saw himself as someone who belonged on a stage, especially in front of cameras and executives. But he walked up slowly, toolbox in hand, and placed it on the podium. He explained its story, not with drama but with the honesty of a man who had lived more nights of fear than most people ever would. He told the audience that every scratch on that box was a battle he had survived, that every tool inside was a part of a life he refused to abandon, and that the carved words weren't meant to inspire anyone. They were simply a father's promise to his daughter during a moment of despair. Yet those words ended up inspiring someone powerful enough to rewrite the course of his life. Miranda watched from the front row, her expression soft with the quiet pride of someone who recognized a reflection of her own past in his story. Emma stood beside her, clutching a small ribbon her father had given her that morning. The crowd applauded, some wiping away tears, and Daniel stepped down from the stage feeling lighter, stronger, finally whole. Because the world often sees people like him as invisible, but kindness had found him anyway. Before the final lines, please comment this phrase below: keep going. Your story isn't over. As the event ended and the lights dimmed, Daniel looked at his daughter and knew that no matter how difficult life had been, every struggle had led him to this moment. And sometimes, he thought, all it takes is for one person to notice the words carved into your life, the ones hidden behind exhaustion and quiet perseverance, and believe in you before you can believe in yourself. And for viewers listening tonight, if this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps bring more stories of hope, courage, and second chances into the world. The end.